Hello, everyone, and hello, world. This is Dr. Marj Britt, founder of Called by Love Institute and Living Loving Legacy, and all of the wonderful things that have come out of that.
In this experience of simply being in a field of light that wraps itself around the entire world, I am so grateful for this knowing and this possibility and this experience of being able to be one with this light. I'm so grateful for you and that you are with us today. Already on my dashboard, we have about twice the number of people that we often have for a Called by Love worldwide call, which tells me that many of us are really yearning for this knowing of this connection with this light surrounding us, moving in us and through us and as us, and inviting us into the beloved vibrational field, the beloved field that not only holds us, but radiates in us and through us and as us, in order that we may move into the experience of holding others, even invisibly, and that this healing energy will be part of the healing of the world. And so we are so grateful for the beautiful, beautiful experience of today's call and all of the people that are on it. And the numbers keep rolling in on my dashboard. And thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us. And so, one of the special, amazing gifts today is that my beloved friend, John Welshons, is here with us to participate in this experience of standing on the Word. And all of the experience of standing on the Word started when I had that moment in time listening to my morning connection with the world through the listening to CNN that particular morning, and hearing one of the CNN hosts interviewing a person that was in the experience of being at home because he had been diagnosed with potential coronavirus, and he had tested positive, and he was with his wife Susie, who had not been diagnosed with it, and they were together quarantined in their home after receiving Clay's diagnosis. And when the interview talked with him about this impact of being diagnosed and the research that talks about what happens when elderly people are isolated without their support systems, and he's elderly, and the interview simply says, "What helps you?" Well, Clay's answer came very, very easily and with an unusual passion. He said, "I stand on the Word." And then he very passionately talked about what that meant to him. And I realized immediately that I also stand on the Word all of the time, always, already. It lives in me and as me. And it's related to that first verse in the first chapter of the Gospel of John that is the creation story told in one word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And I took all of that in, and suddenly Clay's passion became my passion. I came upstairs and I immediately wrote the reminder email to all of you, and now we are having, my dashboard shows about 3 times of our regular numbers of callers that have called in. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us. Thank you for this moment in time where we together can stand on the Word. And before John comes online, let me just share very, very briefly a couple of things about John Welshons that have been so important to me. John Welshons and I met quite unexpectedly. It was one of those unplanned experiences that no one could have predicted. He was actually in Maui, and he was having lunch with his dear friend of 20 or 30 years, who's now passed through the veils, Ram Dass, and they were all sitting together at a table, and my dear friend, Mary Olmoik, the minister of Unity in Maui for quite a few years, was sitting there with them, along with Roger Walsh, and they were talking about different things, and Mary said to John, I'm sharing this with you because this is the way these intersections in time work. Mary said, oh, John, have you been to Unity of Tustin? Roger Walsh was talking with Ram Dass, and Mary was listening to the time Ram Dass had been at Unity of Tustin. And John replied to Mary, no, I haven't. And she said, oh, you have to go there. So Mary was the one that put us in touch. And out of that, John came to Unity of Tustin for the very first time. I invited him to stay in my home. I often had hosted people who came as master teachers to our campus of consciousness. And John showed up on my doorstep, knocked on the door, and I opened the door and saw this amazing smile, these beautiful eyes, this beautiful, delightful figure standing in front of me, and that was the first time that I was able to encounter, connect with a person who's become so important in my life. I was in the midst of an immense period of grief in my life right then, at that moment in time. My beloved had recently passed through the veils, and I was struggling. I was struggling to find my own way through and back. And interestingly, John is the author of an amazing book called Awakening from Grief. And so here he showed up, and we were to have several days together because he was not only going to be at Unity in Tustin, he was going to do an intensive. And I would get acquainted with John. And that, for him, became the initial moment in time that would be the catapult to numerous visits to Unity in Tustin, where he has become not only a soul friend to me, he has become a soul friend to many people within the community of Unity in Tustin. And at one point in time, he wrote the testimonial, which my publishers chose as the testimonial that would go on the cover of my book, Your Soul's Invisible Codes, about unveiling our sacred love stories. So if any of you are interested in reading the 2 places in the book that John Welshons shows up, and I know many of you have my book, He's on page 51. It talks about one time when he came, and I refer to him as an angel in my book. And he also is in the part that describes what Called by Love is all about, and how living, loving legacy was such an important part of that. And that chapter starts on page 325. So, John, welcome. Welcome to the call, and say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. And hello, Marj. Wow, what a beautiful introduction. I feel like I should introduce you now. Well, we have an incredible, beautiful relationship and friendship that has evolved over many years and feels like it dates back to the beginning of the universe. And
yes.
We have had many, many wonderful conversations sitting in your living room, talking on the phone, and I'm just so grateful for your presence in my life, Marj. I mean, you have left a legacy at Unity of Tustin. One thing I'd like to share with your listeners is that when I first made arrangements to come to be at Unity of Tustin many years ago, I was sharing that with many other friends I have in the Unity movement around the country. And so many of the ministers would say something to me like, oh, well, you're going to Marj Britt's church. That's really something wonderful. And they would say, you know, there are Unity ministers, and then there's Marj Britt, and she's quite an extraordinary human being. So it's always, always a blessing to be with you, and more than that, an honor to be invited to be on your call today.
Oh, thank you so much. It touches my heart so deeply that we can do this, and it's such an indication of oneness, not only between you and I, but within our respective spiritual communities. You travel many places in the world, meeting with groups of people, including Unity of Tustin when you're in Southern California. And it just is so beautiful to realize that on this kind of a platform, we can all pick up a telephone and we can dial in, and here we are, all together, all one. Radiating
beautiful
light and that love in every part of the universe where we are. Everyone we meet, with everyone to whom we speak, with everyone that we even think of, in the invisible, we are connected. And John, I invited you on the phone when we talked momentarily before the call to do a short meditation to bring us all into this field together. Do you want to do that now?
Oh, I'd be delighted. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to ring my gong, and I hope it comes across the phone nicely without shattering anyone's eardrums. But it's a nice way to start. I'll ring it once at the beginning and 3 times at the end, and we'll just do a short guided meditation and all take the opportunity to just settle into the one light we all share. As the sound of the gong gradually settles down into silence, just allow your own awareness to settle down into silence. Let yourself tune to your breath. Just feel your body breathing. You don't have to tell it to breathe or command it to breathe. It just breathes naturally. Just feel what that feels like. That constant, beautiful, rhythmic flow, as if your nostrils and your heart are being caressed by a soft, soothing, tropical breeze, flowing into your being right now in this time when there is anxiety and fear and confusion. Just know that there is always within you a place of pure, unconditional love and pure, undisturbed peace, always present, always available to be called upon. And the breath can be one of the most beautiful ways to enter into that silence and peace. By just coming back to the most simple yet profound, fundamental activity of our body, drawing in the air that Mother Earth offers so freely, and to envision that this body that we live in has the ability to draw in this invisible substance called air. We can't even see it. And yet, this invisible air that's created so generously by Mother Earth flows into our nostrils and into our lungs, and our lungs extract all of the nutrients that this body needs for its moment-to-moment survival. Just recognize that this body you live in has been doing this in every moment of every day since you were born. And it's bringing us back to the recognition that our real needs in life are very simple. We need air. We need water. We need food. And we need love. So let our time together on this call today be a time of opening to the extraordinary, infinite, unconditional, eternal love that lives within all of us. Eternally. That place of love and peace is itself our connection to eternity. We all know that these bodies, like everything else in the universe, take birth, exist for a period of time, change, and pass away. But this internal light, the light of love, is undamageable, and it can't be lost. So just allow yourself to tune in to the place within you which hasn't changed one bit since before you were born. Awareness itself, pure awareness, beyond thought, beyond opinion, beyond judgment, just pure, loving awareness. Because as we tune into this love and light, when we tune into the place of inner peace, we find that it is one and the same with love. And it is one and the same with the light that we all talk about when we use that beautiful word, namaste. I honor the light within you. So let this time of confusion and uncertainty in our world be an opportunity for all of us to tune into that inner light, the light of love, and let us begin to see how the circumstances, as the universe has constructed them, these unprecedented circumstances we've never experienced before, how they might be leading us to an opportunity to deepen our awareness of that infinite awareness within us and our awareness of our connection to one another in love. So now just focus for a moment on your heart, the center of your chest. Feel each breath flowing directly into your heart and from your heart back out into the atmosphere. And envision a beautiful light, radiant white light in the center of your heart. And then know that that light also surrounds you. So as you breathe in, you're breathing in the light of love. As you breathe out, you're breathing out the light of love. And let that be the connection to each other, to everyone on earth, and to the earth itself. So that we can begin to tune to what the opportunities are for love and connection. And we can begin to tune to what it is, perhaps our Mother Earth and our universe are offering us in this incredible circumstance. What are the blessings that might be hidden behind all of the upheaval and change? What are the blessings that are always present in our heart and in the light of love? Just breathe in and out of your heart and allow yourself to settle into this moment, knowing that whatever you need for your spiritual evolution, for your spiritual growth, the universe will undoubtedly offer, because it can't do anything else. And maybe, just maybe, our universe realized that it needed to find a way to slow us down and get us to pay attention to love. Breathing in and out of the heart. Breathing in light. Breathing out light. Allowing the love to nourish and nurture your heart. And then share it by sending it back out into the world. In a moment, I'll ring the gong 3 times. As I do, just allow your eyes to stay gently closed, hearing the sound of the gong, representing how everything in the world of form, everything, arises, exists, changes, and passes away. Everything. Breathing in and out of the heart of love.
Beautiful, John. Thank you so much. Just an incredible moment of feeling that deep inner experience that is beyond words. You know, it's interesting that the email standing on the word brought forth a lot of response into our inbox at team calledbylove.com, and one of the ones that I loved a lot was one by a minister of a Center for Spiritual Living in Northern California, and she said, I thought you would enjoy my message to my community, and here's the sentence I connected with, and she talked about my mentioning my beloved friend Ed Casey sending me something he had written, asking the question, is it that divine order has stepped in a way that perhaps we do not understand, and said, enough is enough. We need to get the attention of the world. And then Ed asked, is it that this coronavirus is serving this purpose? And this minister, whose name I will not share because I would like to have you just wonder if it's your minister, perhaps. She does come from Northern California. And she said, in talking with one of my beloved prayer partners this morning, she shared she could imagine the great Mother Goddess had thrown up her hands, telling us all this divisiveness, all this greed and fighting, you are destroying your playground. I can't take it anymore. You have gotten on my last nerve. You're grounded.
I love that. You're grounded. We're all grounded. Yeah.
And then they started laughing, and she said the scene went further, and she said, you know, the virus is sweeping across our planet. The media cannot stop talking about it. And she said, over 75% of my email today was notices of cities canceling events and schools closing and churches canceling their services. We are being told to stay home. And what do we do when we are being told to stay home? Well, we can, quote, follow the rules put out by the CDC, and that includes things like wash our hands. Maybe we'll take extra vitamin C. Most of all, she suggests we don't let ourselves be caught by fear. Because, and I loved what you said here, fear is the most insidious virus. I'm thinking the words of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. And it's so easy to become caught by it. And then her suggestion in this beautiful moment of communicating with me is pay more attention to our family, friends, people we love, even our pets. Play in our gardens. Or maybe give loving attention to our homes. Be aware of every single moment that we have. Morning, noon, and bedtime. Think of things we are grateful for. I love that one. Spend more time in prayer and meditation for the health of our world, for the health of our country. Let's face the future without fear, because we realize there's nothing in the universe to be afraid of. It is truly all God, even if it doesn't look like what we think God is supposed to look like. And I thought immediately of Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those called by God and called by purpose. And so it truly is about reminding ourselves, regardless of appearances, something amazing and transformative is happening to humanity. And then she wrote an affirmative prayer, and in her affirmative prayer were the words, "My gratitude is like a virus. Everyone's catching it." And immediately the word gratitude resonated with me, but even more the word love resonates with me. My love is like a virus. Everyone's catching it. And I see it spreading to my family and my friends and beyond, to everyone I know, to everyone I speak with, and to everyone they know, and to everyone they speak with. We have the potential to bridge heaven and earth. We are not grounded in a sense of being confined. We are grounded in love, and we are reaching and opening to light, penetrating, filling us, our entire being, every moment of every day. The person who sent me the letter is also, or the email, is also the author of the book. And I'm going to give you the name of the book, because if you want to find out more, here's the name of the book. And So It Is. It's a book of uncommon prayer. And I love those words, and so it is. They were words that I've used for all of the years of being a minister on the platform. I always ended every single prayer with those words, and so it is. So these are some amazing kinds of things that just reading the email ignited. A person from Texas sent me a beautiful response saying, "I've kept the January, February issue of Daily Word open to your page. When you when you quoted Rumi, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there." And it's just filled. My inbox was filled with wonderful messages. One from a person by the name of Kathy, and she thought maybe she knew me because I had mentioned Ward, Colorado. Well, actually, I never lived there, but my father did. These are imprints that are multi-generational. My father lived there and actually part of the start of his business. Britt Truckers came out of that tiny community called Ward in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. And Kathy talked about the fact that she had a car accident in 1979, and she lost her ability to speak in the way she always had, in the same kind of condition that Ram Dass had, John, aphasia.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, she published a book, and her book title is God Isn't Finished With Me Yet. She now goes to things like brain injury conferences, one that she attended recently in New Orleans, and now she's working with foster kids and loving her life. So, John, what have been some of the responses you've gotten as you have listened to your community expressing to you what's happening in their lives?
Well, I'm fascinated by how little in the way of hysteria I've encountered. Meaning that, 9/11 was perhaps the one thing that came closest to this. And what we saw in the wake of 9/11, and, I live just 12 miles from New York City, and what we saw in the wake of this horrific tragedy was human beings being at their best. It was quite extraordinary. I remember the night of 9/11, I was scheduled to speak the following day on September 12th at a convention in Atlantic City. And I was assuming they would cancel the convention, so I called and said, I'm assuming you don't want me to come. And they said, no, you have to come. You're the only speaker we have. Nobody else can get here. So I drove down the Garden State Parkway, which people on the East Coast are probably fairly familiar with. And I was amazed, first of all, at how few cars were on the road. Secondly, how politely everyone was driving, and that the frantic pace at which people have taken to driving these days, where, it's just sort of accepted that you go 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, and that's sort of like just puttering along, Suddenly everybody slowed down. And I'm seeing that again. The other day, my partner Maureen and I went out for a walk. And it was a beautiful day, sun was shining, and it was unusually quiet. And I was noticing how much ambient sound there is in the atmosphere in most of the places that we live, especially if they're densely populated, because there are always cars and trucks on the roads, and planes and trains and buses and trucks, and, lots of background noise. And in this moment, it was very precious to recognize how the quiet that had settled in, the silence. And, many people were out tending their flower gardens or, just doing chores around the house, or just walking their dogs, walking with their partners, walking with their children. And there was a gentleness and sweet simplicity that we've lost in this culture. So I'm just so touched to see that. Yesterday, I had to go to the grocery store, and, I was kind of heartened to see that things were, for the most part, in good supply, although all the toilet paper was still gone. I wonder sometimes people got the message that this was an epidemic of dysentery or something, It's very strange. But everything's starting to come back. So interestingly, the fruits and vegetables were plentiful. The fruit and vegetable section looked normal. Meats were all sold out. Bread was all sold out, and toilet paper was all sold out. But everything else was coming back. So, I realized that if we just sort of take a breath and surrender to this circumstance, that there are so many blessings to be gained. Now, I understand that, everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people are very concerned about their incomes. And I think that this is just going to be an opportunity for so many things, one of which, and you were talking about it so clearly, Marj, is learning how to let go of the fear that jumps into our mind so quickly in almost any circumstance. One of my teachers many years ago said to me something I thought was absolutely brilliant. She said, our human mind thinks that its job is to be frightened. It's almost like it's subtly saying to us all the time, if I'm not frightened, you're not safe. So we may have a moment of inner peace, and then the mind will say, wait a minute, you're not paying attention to all the bad things that are going on in the world. Don't be peaceful. You can't be peaceful. And that's just our own mind telling us nonsense, frankly. So the fact of the matter is that the more we fear, the less effective we are. The more we fear, the less we're able to take in the lessons that are being offered. I often tell classes that there's a reason that in Oriental martial arts, we are taught not to be fearful when under attack. It's fascinating. Because our mind would say, well, if you're not fearful, you won't respond to the attack. That's not true. When you're fearful, your body is weaker, your responses are slower, your whole being is weakened by fear. So the point is not to be fearful, but to learn how to address every circumstance, even if your mind might define it as a threatening circumstance, how to interact with it from a place of love. And I think that what happens in 9/11 and now in this circumstance, which ultimately obviously is even more dramatic, what happens is that when our mind is blown, we have no option other than to live from our heart. And when we do that, we start to offer kindness and generosity and caring for other human beings. And then we start to learn that that is so much more powerful. To live in love is so much more powerful than living in desire and fear. And of course, the fear is always, basically, that our desires won't be met. And we've created a society in which we're able pretty much to satisfy desires almost immediately. So I was ordering something on Amazon this morning, and I realized now, they're saying, well, we can have it to you within a couple of hours. I think, gee, did I really need it within a couple of hours? It was fine when I got it within a few weeks. So all of this speed and urgency and immediate gratification we're finding isn't really gratifying, because we really needed to slow down. So I'd like to just read something that someone sent me from, this is actually from an Italian poet. And it's about, of course, Italy was basically closed for business long before we were. And the beauty of the way in which the people are handling it is quite extraordinary. And I'll just read you a few lines of this poem. It says, "This I want to tell you. We had to stop. We knew. We all felt it was too fast. Our doing, our wanting things, our living outside ourselves, turning time into money. We had to stop, and we could not. This had to be done together. Slow down our going, and we did not succeed. No human effort could stop us. And since this was a common desire, an unconscious need to slow down, to stop, perhaps our species obeyed, broke the chains that bind our seed, opened the most secret cracks and let it in. Perhaps for this reason, it moved to us. Something in us wanted to open up. I suppose so. I have no certainties. And now we are at home, wondrous what is now happening. And there is a great treasure, I believe, in this strange time. Perhaps gifts, gold nuggets for us, if we help each other. The call of our species is now truly strong, and now we think we need to think of ourselves as a species. A common destiny holds us here. We knew it, though not so clearly. Either all or no one. Earth is powerful, truly alive. I feel she is thinking of a thought we do not yet know of. And it goes on, but it's a beautiful reflection, and so I think that these are the kinds of things that we need to think about and focus on, and rather than be terrified about what's ahead, try to live in the moment and trust that when we do that, when the time that's ahead is now, we will know what to do. We will have the strength and wisdom and courage to do what needs to be done. And most of all, I think that's in seeking how to help one another, how to be kind to one another, and how to increase connection with one another.
Oh, that's beautiful, John. And as you talked about, when our brain is taken down, that we have to go into our heart. And it immediately reminded me of a paragraph in my book. And it's actually in chapter 30, and I just want to read that paragraph. It's very short. And then it changed. And this is talking about when my life changed. And it happened with a death, the death of my beloved. But what we're living with now is another kind of death. And then it changed. The Bible uses a phrase, like a thief in the night, unexpected, unplanned, a tsunami followed by an earthquake, and my personal life dissolved as if by cosmic erasure. 6 months ago, there was a story. Now it is gone. The whiteboard is still there, just erased. As I looked up the scripture on the thief in 1 Thessalonians 5:2, to make sure my memory of it was there, I noticed something I had never seen before. There was an instruction. Put on a breastplate of love. Put on a breastplate of love. And that's talking about Aaron's breastplate in the Bible. And there are jewels in it. And they're the jewels that are the 12 colors, the radiant colors. And they're the colors of the 12 colors. They're the colors of the rainbow, the jewels. And one of those jewels is love. Put on a breastplate of love. In fact, the entire breastplate in that scripture is defined as love. And, John, it's interesting that some people are doing it just as a result of your being on this call. One of the things that happened was that the board president of the church where you're going to be speaking next Sunday sent Fabian an email asking if she could mail to her list, the list for the entire church, simply based on the fact that you were going to be on this call today. How beautiful that is. This is future time expressing in this now moment, flowing through you. And, you know, I thought about what John Kasich said in an interview that I have. Breakfast is when I catch up on the day's news. John Kasich, the former governor of Ohio, said, I think I'm right.
Yep, you're right.
That.
You are right, yeah.
And he was talking about how the two political sides that had been such adversaries are now communicating through Governor Cuomo in New York and Trump, President Trump. And that they are now communicating because Governor Cuomo reached out with a hand of requesting, how can we get beyond political differences? How can we come together for the good of the people? What a beautiful, beautiful thing that at least in one moment in time, the answer was yes. So one of the things that we might ask ourselves is, where in your life have there been blocks? Where in your life have there been things that separated you, or when you felt like you hit the wall, or when you felt resentment or anger or disappointment or fear, and you wouldn't communicate? As a result of that, how can we dissolve those blocks for the good of all the people? Really, really.
You know, it's really interesting because one thing that people have recognized is that this virus knows no nationalities, it knows no boundaries, it doesn't discriminate between male or female, it doesn't discriminate between races, ethnicities, nothing. And in a way, although, there's a lot of agitation of the mind connected with the news that comes in about the virus, it's a kind of interesting way for the universe to say, there is something that is much more powerful than we individually think we are. And if I need to do this to get your attention, then so be it, Now, I always want to address the issue that comes up in people's minds when we offer these kinds of perspectives. It's kind of like, I remember years ago when I was sort of a novice on the spiritual path, and I had encountered the teaching that suffering was grace. And I happened to make the mistake of mentioning that to a friend of mine who had grown up in the Catholic Church and was really, mortified at that point in his life by that teaching. And he said, well, I don't want any part of any God who would offer suffering as grace. And then, as I've evolved over the years, Marj, that a lot of my work has been dealing with suffering. In other words, dealing with the suffering that arises on this planet that we can't meditate it away, we can't pray it away, it's just there. And so I've always wanted to address those really thorny issues, and I did it in Awakening from Grief, and then in When Prayers Aren't Answered, the second book that I wrote, and that's the one that a lot of my Unity friends have been saying, this is really a wonderful book for this time, because I really wanted to address the worst things that could possibly happen and try to figure out where the grace is within those experiences. And, it's a challenge. It doesn't negate the fact that our hearts hurt. And, if we get sick, our bodies hurt, and we feel bad, and that we worry, and, we're concerned about our family and our loved ones and the future of the world and so on. But the fact of the matter is, I told this story the other day, which I thought was so poignant, and it takes a while to get it sometimes. But the story was about my guru, Neem Karoli Baba. And it's actually two stories that are blended into one. One story, the first part of it, a family comes to him who are his devotees in India, and they say, Maharaji, please help us. Our father is dying. Is there anything you can do? And Maharaji picks up a banana and basically blesses it, hands it to them, and says, here, give him this. He'll be fine. And they go home, they rush home and take the banana, and they treat it like a sacred object. It's prasad, divine food. And they mash it up and they feed it to the father, and he gets better, and he's fine. And so another family hears about this, and their father is dying, and they come to Maharaji, and they say, Maharaji, please, our father is dying. Can you do something for him? And he picks up a banana, and he hands it to them, and he says, give this to him. He'll be fine. And they go home, and they mash up the banana, and they feed it to their father, and he dies. So the second family comes back and says, what's up here? You gave the other family a banana, and it healed their father. You gave us a banana, and our father died. And Maharaji said, well, I didn't say he was going to live. What did I say? They said, you said he'll be fine. And Maharaji said, he is fine. Now, that's a very fierce teaching, actually, that the man who died was just as fine as the one who didn't, from the spiritual point of view. So that's what these kinds of situations call us to look at, is what is it that's fine? Where is the safety? And in a way, there is no safety on this planet. I sometimes say to people, we have years and years of being aware of taking care of our health, and we've increased the average life expectancy in this country dramatically. But no matter how much yoga we do, how much we meditate, how pure the foods are that we eat, how many supplements we take, how much exercise we get, the death rate is still 100%. And so I think that has to be included in our calculations. It's really, and that's really what brings us back to learning how to appreciate the moment, this present moment, now, today. It's really all we have. I've told you that about 25 years ago, after I'd been working with people who were dying and people who were grieving for many years, I added to my morning meditation, when I sit in front of my puja table, as I'm doing now, I added to my morning meditation every morning the following phrase: this could be my last day on earth, or the last for someone I love. In light of that, how do I want to spend it? What do I want to fill my mind with? How do I want to treat people? Do I want to be kind and generous, or cranky and selfish? And, when you're faced with the possibility that this could be your last day on earth, which it always could, coronavirus or no coronavirus, that's a reality that I think we have to learn to embrace. Now, it's the thing that wakes us up.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. We've spent decades in this culture trying to hide our own mortality. And people have given us the message over and over and over again, don't think about that. That will make you depressed. When in fact, my own experience and the experience of many, many people I know, just the opposite is the case. When you face your own mortality, you wake up because you start to realize you don't have time to waste. This is it. Today could be it. We better be happy now, in spite of whatever is going on. We better be loving now, in spite of whatever is going on. We must learn how to forgive ourselves and others and be in this moment. I was just thinking this morning, when I woke up and looked out the window, as the sun was rising, what a beautiful day it was. Is. And then I remembered, I had forgotten for a moment about the whole virus and our lockdown and sheltering in place and all of that. And that's what the mind does. You see, if you have a moment of peace, the mind will say, oh, no, don't be peaceful. A friend of mine used to say his mind was like a vulture that sat on his headboard. And he would wake up in the morning to have like 3 seconds of peace, and then the vulture would descend. And here's all you have to be worried about and be angry about and be frightened about. And I think the important thing is for everybody in this time to begin to notice that our natural state is not to be frightened. Our natural state is not to be angry. Our natural state is not to be selfish. And to recognize how good it feels when we aren't frightened and angry and selfish. That's when we really come alive.
Oh, that's beautiful, John. And I want to offer just a sort of unusual perspective. One of the things I have playfully done is kind of like playing in the garden. Playfully done. I've never taken it seriously in a way that I've rigorously applied it to my life. And in fact, most times, I probably don't even pay attention. But I just happened to sign up for a course online that had to do with astrology during the year 2020, because I've been very curious about how it would unfold. Let me read to you just a couple of paragraphs out of what I got, and I found it shocking. March 16th. This is last Monday. And it's talking about the time from February 6th to July 21st, where in my chart Pluto happens to be square the sun. This is an intensely challenging period during which you will have to reach down into the deepest stratum of your being for the answers and resources you need. You will be forced to reckon with something that has been underground, ignored, neglected, suppressed, or hidden from you, or by you. Perhaps an issue you believed had been laid to rest comes back to haunt you. You encounter the darker side of people, of power, perhaps of your own self as well. You may be behaving in a compulsive or irrational way to protect yourself from what you perceive as dark threats from the outside. This is a cycle of stripping away and of death, stripping away what is false, and death of those aspects of yourself or your way of life that no longer serve you. Your inner being is being metamorphosized on a deep level. And then there is a potential, a renewed sense of life and power is the potential positive. As you clear away unresolved situations or attitudes of powerlessness, helplessness, victimization, or compulsiveness. It is a spiritual rebirth, an initiation into the underside of life that leaves you stronger, tougher, more resilient, and potent. And then there's another suggestion that you'll find interesting, John. Be patient and gentle with yourself. Allow yourself time to grieve. Awakening from grief, and mourn, and expect to heal. Expect to heal. And then today, there's a very short directive just for March 18. I found this fascinating. It's only in my awareness for 2 days, today and tomorrow, where Mars is trine Neptune. You want to do something, and do is capitalized with both letters. You want to do something you usually only fantasize about or normally consider lovely but unrealistic. You need to take concrete steps, even if only small ones, in the direction of a dream. By doing so, you will give yourself energy and you can stimulate possibilities and opportunities you never imagined before. It is a magical moment. So the one thing I would ask for people on the call is, what can you do today or tomorrow that you usually only fantasize about or consider unrealistic? How can you take concrete steps, even if small ones, in the direction of a dream? How can you stimulate possibilities and opportunities you never imagined before? And I got one email from Stages International that I found fascinating. It's about the coronavirus stages and what to expect. And in that, they talk about how there's one possible perspective that what's happening is we are bumping into a large collective shadow. And then they talk about the fact that Kim Barta, who's a co-partner with Stages with Terry O'Fallon, is offering a new course called Shadowcraft, Dancing with Demons. And since I always like to go for the love and go for the light, I thought, oh my God, it's the same possibility that I talked about in my book, dancing all the colors of the rainbow. How can we dance every single color of our life, or the consciousness that comes out of every experience in our life, from being an infant until the time we pass through the veils, as if it's all part of timelessness? And how can we see everything through the lens of the beloved, and an email or a message just came in through the web, the box on the webcast from Lori in Elisa Viejo. And Lori says, I went into prayer and heard, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. I ground myself with this reassurance daily. And then there's a message to you, John. Listening to your meditation, John, was so helpful. Thank you. Wonderful. And then thank you, Marj, for reminding us there is no separation. And Lori says, I'll be praying for all of us. How beautiful. And, we have gotten a lot of messages through the webinar inbox. Lisa Colabar says, hello, lovely ladies, and welcome, John. Looking forward to today's discussion and love to all of you. And Judy from Montclair, New Jersey says, happy to be connected. And Patty, Patty Higgins, part of Called by Love and also Unity of Tustin. During this time of isolating, can Called by Love meet more frequently, maybe even weekly? And Fabian immediately wrote a note and said, I would suggest we talk about this offline. and then she says, let people know to be sure to be on our email list for updates. And she gives the sign up for that, calledbyloveinstitute.com/sign-up, sign-up. So wonderful emails coming in through the inbox. And Bruce from Montclair, New Jersey, the universe is gifting humanity with I'm getting tongue twisters. The universe is gifting humility for humanity. And then a message from Marla for you, John. What was your plan for this morning before you were redirected here now? You want to answer that, John?
Well, I can't remember. It's interesting. My plan when I wake up is to wake up. And waking up means, waking up in bed, waking up to, I happen to have a very comfortable bed that I sleep in. So usually the first few moments of being awake are just luxuriating and like, oh, God, this is so delicious. And then I get up and my feet hit the floor and I do walking meditation into the bathroom. And then eventually I sit down at my puja table and I tune to God. I tune to the universe. I tune to the breath. I do that meditation that I mentioned about today could be my last day on earth or the last for someone I love. And those are my ways of waking up. And that's my plan every day. And then around 9 a.m. or so, I'll go to my computer and look and see what's on my schedule. So I generally wake up around 4:30 or 5 a.m. So I have usually 4.5 hours before I set about the business of the day. And I find that works very nicely. I know a lot of people have to be at work earlier, but at this point in my life, this is my work. And then I see, do I have appointments for counseling? Do I have appointments for, oh, yes, today I'm going to be talking with Marj. How delightful. And it just kind of unfolds like that. It's, I've been repeating that wonderful phrase from John Lennon. Now, you think of John Lennon and how his life ended, and just before it did, he wrote a song in which one of the lines was, life is what happens to us while we're busy making other plans. And I think, that was so profound. So my plans are obviously always subject to change. A few weeks ago, I thought I was coming to Unity of Tustin on March 15th. And then, oh my goodness, everything started to shift. And I finally woke up one morning and said, I think it's time to go home to New Jersey. And ultimately, all the programs at Unity of Tustin were canceled, so mine would have been canceled anyway. And I just have learned to live life in that way, that I never really know. My plan is just a plan. It has no real substance to it. So my plan in this lifetime is to awaken to love and to God as much as possible. And whatever is happening, I try to figure out how to use that to wake up. So that's what my plan was today and every day. And, I just like to read. Yeah, I'd like to read something. I thought of this when you were talking a few minutes ago, Marj, about loving from the perspective of the beloved, or looking at life from the perspective of the beloved. And in this time when, we're all, no matter what side of the spectrum we think we're on, everybody recognizes that we've been so divided by our political ideas. And this I came across from a teacher that I have great love and respect for, Meher Baba. And you and I have talked about Meher Baba. Well, Meher Baba said this wonderful thing that someone sent it to me a couple of years ago, and I'd never heard it before. It's a beautiful question. He said, "Is God in the rose and not in the thorn? Or in flowers and not in dirt? This weakness of seeing God in things you like and shuddering at the idea of his existence in things you don't like or abhor must be overcome. It is only when you rise above all of these ideas of good and bad and recognize, see, and feel flowers and dirt alike, and find God equally in all, that you could be said to have known and learned something real. Otherwise, it is all parrot-like, a false conception, an illusion."
Wow. Send me a copy of that, will you, John?
That's a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that we're still getting messages coming in, Pete from Montclair is saying, "Hi, John. Hearing your voice helps push away the fears, at least temporarily."
Well, what I would say to that is the place in which there's no fear is who you truly are. So that one of the most potent practices is to remember that when the fear starts to creep back in, it's your mind saying, if I'm not frightened, you're not safe. So, none of this is meant to suggest carelessness or, recklessness. I talked at great length in When Prayers Aren't Answered about the difference between fear and prudence, or fear and wise caution. So, when we've told a few people, that we are going to follow the guidelines and essentially stay at home, and some people have said, "Oh, I can't believe that you're buying into the fear." Well, it's not fear. It just seems like a prudent thing to do when we're dealing with what we're dealing with. And when, in fact, what we really would benefit from is thinking of one another and thinking that, well, I may not be terrified of the virus, but what if I somehow transmitted it to somebody else? What we're being asked to do is to think in those terms and not put ourselves in a position of doing that. I think that's just, that's being kind and prudent and cautious. So I think that that's a different thing than fear.
Absolutely. And we have another message from Lori Ann from San Juan Capistrano. In this world crisis atmosphere, I go deep within my beliefs. I believe in eternal life. I believe that our task is the transcendence of all discord. I believe we will all reach this goal, Does the universe set up scenarios for our continued evolution? Sounds like it. Do we create experience with our thoughts? That's what I've taught all my life. Thoughts held in mind manifest after their kind. What thinking brought on the life of this virus and pandemic? A deep, deep question. And we have a comment from Heidi from Billings. Thank you and mahalo. All of this is exactly what I need to hear. And many revelations and insights that you shared here are what I was thinking yesterday, that all of this is God and Divine Mother grounding us and asking us to slow down. There are truly many gifts and blessings within this global emergency and shutdown. We can emerge into better souls from this and much more unity with each other. I hope we can share some of this message with others who are not part of this call today. And Fabian added a note. Yes, we will share the recording on the same length, and we can put in the YouTube also, put it into YouTube also. So I'll let Fabian handle that. And she also wrote me a note saying, this is my new friend that she communicated with about the New York angel synchronicity leading to the pictures that were in our email. So Heidi from Billings, I'm so glad you're on the call. And we didn't go into the time of silence as much today. And what has happened as a result of that is that you're all putting your messages into the box on the webcast. Alana, yours is beautiful. From Albuquerque, Gaia breathes a sigh of relief as this planet of humanity slows and we all breathe together again, breathing in the heart of love. And thank you so much, Alana. And Judy, one of the ways you took action, Judy from Northern California, Walnut Creek actually, sent in a donation to Called by Love Institute on PayPal. Thank you, Judy. What a beautiful, beautiful gift. A way that you help support the messages of love that go out to the universe and around the world. And one of the to-do things that I got for myself, and based on that thing that I read to you, the instruction that was in the cosmic message for me that came in that astrology piece, was to actually act on some dream today. And so my commitment to go into action is actually to do what I've intended to do for a long time, create a chart that shows how all of the stages of love move as we go through the stages of our lives and how there's repeating patterns. And I've never put it into a real simple chart. So that's my commitment for the next however long it takes, month. And the commitment to create that simple chart. In my book, I talk about how every code is found in every single one of the codes. It's just that the light's shining through one of the codes, like light or faith or imagination, but all of the codes are in all of the codes. And, you know, we can do such simple things together. The email from Stages International talked about one of the things that they are working on now is to produce a series of programs to help people get through the next weeks and months. And they bolded this next sentence, because of the strain on people's finances, many of these will be offered on a sliding scale, and some will simply allow you to donate what you can afford. And that is, this is my whole deep, passionate commitment to doing Called by Love Institute as a nonprofit. It doesn't mean we don't have expenses. It doesn't mean we don't need money to sustain the platforms, but it's so important to contribute to that in a way that people could say yes to it, regardless of a dollar figure. And sometimes they'll donate $5, $10, sometimes $50 or $100 or even $1,000. It's amazing if you give people choices. And one of the things Stages International is doing is putting some of their content that they have ready to go with a wide range of materials in different specialty inventories and creating the platform to offer it in this, allowing people to donate what they can afford. And they sent an email to us yesterday asking us if we would be willing to have them put the edited material for Love as Never Before into this offering, and would we be willing to mail to our list? And we said, absolutely, yes. Now, this was a 5-day intensive with people coming from 8 different countries and from 7 different states from all over the world. And they had to pay for hotel and airlines, and now they're going to make it available, that the recordings from that, on a love donation basis. How beautiful. And here's a message from Vanessa from Tustin, addressed to me and to John, and she writes, in this time of physical separation, my awareness, John and Marj, is that we are all more now than ever deeply connected in a shared awareness and shared experience. This collective awareness is what will ultimately bring us all together and open our hearts to the realization that for so long we were separated by the busyness of our lives and the distraction of the illusion that we were living in. Our slowing down is a collective pause to allow us to realign and connect our hearts and our minds and ultimately heal ourselves and the planet. Oh, that's written to beloved Marj and John. John, that's for you as much as for me. And
yum, 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 yum. Beautiful. Yeah.
And the other thing, I will share this just quickly because we're running out of time. For people who have deeply dived into the stages, as I have, and done the research and worked on making this available to as many people as possible, what I will share with you that in the rare stages that are the meta-aware, where I know some of the people from Unity of Tustin are because they were part of the specialty inventory beta test, beta inventory that we did, and in the rare stages, it goes from the individual where there's confusion to the collective where an individual does something that puts all of it together. I did that with Called by Love and with Living Loving Legacy Telesummit that John, you were on, and other people like Adyashante and Andrew Harvey, and you were there, but then it goes into the collective experience of those rare stages, and the collective that is you move into from the individual to the collective first is one where, again, you don't know what you're going to do because you've never done it before. You don't have the map. Well, we are co-creating the map if you're willing to get in the Petri dish with us and discover what the map is together.
That's quite an image. I love it.
And then
get into the Petri dish.
The final one is a collaborative collective where there is no superstar, where there is no one leader, where there is no one teacher, where people come together and they become a collective collaborative, and they share from their own individualized gifts of genius in order that we can manifest that consciousness into the world. So that'll be my last. I'm running out of time, but John, I want to give you one more. Angela from New York. Hello to all of my brothers and sisters. Much love and peace to all. We are one. And before we do our closing with the music, John, what I want is for you to say your own final words to everyone. And Alana also says, thanks to John for being on the call today. Lots of love to you. Your voice is so strengthening to hear. Thank you for everyone for utilizing that chat box on our webcast. And John, give us a final message before we go into the music.
Well, what comes to me initially, Marj, is that what you've just done over the past 15 minutes or so by reading these glorious messages from the people who've been on the call today is just exemplify what you were talking about, which is that ultimately this time may be a time of recognizing that there is no one teacher or one leader or one anything, that we are all one and we're all part of that one, and that we learn to express that oneness in all of these different ways and through each of our individual lives, our individual dharma, which is our path back into the one, essentially. The work that we do in the world that takes us back home. So I would just encourage everybody to, one of the phrases that my dear Marj shared with me many years ago, which I thought was so good. We used to talk about letting go of fear or, being at odds with fear in some way. And, that wonderful phrase that you read from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And then my teacher and dear friend Stephen Levine used to say, let us not even fear fear. Because fear is just another state of mind. It's just another complex of thoughts that aren't really who we are. And then Marj suggested many years ago that rather than saying letting go of fear or pushing the fear away, that we just let it dissolve. We just let the fear dissolve. And the more you live in love, the more the fear in your mind will dissolve. It's like, in a very simple way, a friend of mine said to me, one of my teachers said many, many, many years ago, I happen to say, I feel my life is meaningless. He said, whenever you feel your life is meaningless, start doing more things for other people. This is a great opportunity to apply that because meaninglessness. I mean, what would be more fear-inducing than a sense of meaninglessness? And what would fear induce other than a sense of meaninglessness? So the fear is what stands in the way of our living in love. So in the spirit of my dear Marj, Britt, I invite us all to find ways to live in love and let the fear dissolve.
Oh, thank you, John. And then one more message came in from Pam from Verona. It's interesting that the virus attacks the human breathing apparatus. In Unity, we say that God has a sense of humor. It's like the universe is saying, appreciate the breath of life and just breathe. I love that. Thank you, Pam. And we have gone over time, and how beautiful it is to have the freedom to be outside of the bounds of limited. And so let's all go into our hearts. You might even put your hand on your heart and a smile on your face as you express that feeling of love and gratitude for the all that is, as we listen to Liebestrom, Dream of Love.